Thank you, Tia. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
to be here. And before we get started, everybody just want to take maybe a 10-second stretch break. I know I've been kind of sitting in my chair, so if you want to move around and just before we get rolling, that's a good thing. It's good to be here, everybody. And we're going to welcome everybody, if you could, to open up your screens. We're going to be interactive. We want to see each other. And let me start. Armando, if you take a moment, just introduce yourself, and I'll do likewise.
Well, first of all, thanks, Thea, for having us. My name is Armando Diaz, Program Director with the EduCare Foundation. I've been with EduCare now for over 5 years, and I was also a product of Boys and Girls Clubs, was with Boys and Girls Clubs for about 17 years. So it's a long, long youth development career that I've had with education as well.
Thanks, Armando. I'm president and co-founder of EduCare, and a lot of our work has to do with the social-emotional development. So we wanted to make this time to be interactive, to be one that you can take away some practical tips for you and your staff, and also to wrap in self-care, because as rough as these times are, and a lot of us, we're just, how can I help others? It's important that we fill up our own cups and help ourselves. So we're going to give you some tips, do some activities you can use with staff, with your kids, and just really engage ourselves with one another. One of the things that we'd like to do is to kind of build a sense of connection between us. So that's why, if you can, to open up your video would be great. Because one of the things, if we're live with our kids, is before we just roll into activities, we want to check in with each other. So we're going to do the same here. And I would love to have this time together that we not just have an experience of being in a workshop, but that we can take something that's meaningful for us. One of the things that we work with, and Amanda, if you can kind of take it to the screen for a minute, it's called Growth Heart Set. And it has to do with developing a sense of kindness and compassion for our community, for our kids, and our staffs. And it really starts with ourselves. So I think one of the ways, and we'll just stay on this gallery view. If you're on speaker view, my suggestion is hit back over to gallery view. And here's our kind of title page, Culture of Caring. And if you want to flip it to the next screen, that'll be great, Armando, thanks. So we want to create a culture where caring and compassion comes inside of that community, because kids, as we all know, they're not going to care too much about all we do until they know we care about them. So how do we establish that? And a lot of us do it naturally out of our personality. But what if there's ways to build that? And that's what we're going to take a look at. We call it Heart Set. And before we get into this slide, if you would, Armando, if you can just open up the full screen for all of us to kind of take a look at who we're with today. And I'm going to ask you, as kind of an awkward as it might be, is that we can build a connection across this virtual world, a human connection. And one of the ways to do it is just to kind of check in to see who you're with. And I know it might seem awkward, but just take a look around at the wonderful faces of who you're with, people you don't know, strangers. It's often said that friends start out as strangers, and yeah, we're just here for a little while. But imagine that we're going to have time for kids and for parents that, you know what, let's bring ourselves together. So if you haven't opened your screen, you can just take a moment to look around who you're with. You might, in the chat room, we're going to invite you to use the chat room a lot. If you want to say hi, everybody, or I'm with you, count me in, just as a way to know that it's not just strangers out there, that we're here together. So as we kind of build this together, one of the things we want to do is to give you some opportunities to look at the core of building connections with kids. And we're going to flip back over to the screen, the PowerPoint. And if you notice here, the next PowerPoint talks about the purpose of the day and the real gap. And I'm going to work this one. I'll just kind of ask you to click with me on it. A lot of times we've been hearing about, of course, there's achievement gaps, and people go, okay. And it's usually pointed to, well, kids in poverty, the kids, racial issues around achievement gap. We all know that's what the narrative is, but it's really gotten to be, and you go to the next clip, a lot of people know it's about opportunities, and we all know that. Why do kids in poor neighborhoods? Why do kids of color have less achievement often? It's not ability, it's not talent, it's the opportunities. So I started asking myself, why is that? And here we are in this time, Black Lives Matter, all that we're doing to wake ourselves up across our systems to go, wait a minute, why aren't the opportunities the same? And as I started thinking about that years ago, what I kept coming to was the biggest gap of all, and I call that the love gap. And what if, and we're seeing it systemically in our society, that when love is distributed in resources in different ways, opportunities are less, and then achievement is the result. So what we're looking at in the work we're doing with staff and kids is, how do we build communities of love that ripple into systemic change and policies where more opportunities are given to kids, and then achievement's the byproduct. So what we're about is building love as a foundation of education. And we got to do it where we are, with ourselves, with our colleagues, with our kids. And then, of course, how do we influence political leaders and policies? So our work in very basic ways is building that love connection between kids. And if you flip over to the next screen, Armando. Excuse me, everybody. So we call it a heart set. Everybody knows about mindset, which is a wonderful thing. Keep that mind directed and positive. I was in a conference once and I raised my hand and just came to me. I said, could we also talk about a heart set? And people said, what are you talking about, Stu? And I said, well, and I didn't quite know what to say other than, what if kids are going to look for where the love is and the kindness is, and that's where the learning will take place. So what we're looking at, and we can do this inside of our after-school expanded learning, is we can build climates of self-awareness, responsibility, empathy, care, and compassion. And it's not just by chance, just by having good people. We can build those skills up. Just like now people are building up on equity skills, how to really get attuned in terms of our biases, how do we get tuned up inside of our compassion? How do we bring that out? So I want to share with you the word that sometimes gets unspoken, and that's the next slide over, the magic ingredients, and we just put it right out on the table, is unconditional love. And it's been hidden a lot that people don't want to talk about that. It may have romantic connotations, or what happens in this day and age when you can't, really reach out and touch someone. We're going, it gets felt just from the kindness of individuals. And we can make that really known to people. So I want to share with you, and then we're going to do some activities around this. I was in one of our high schools in LA, Social Justice Humanitas, and they have this as a motto, and it's called La Quecha Lakin. My ingredient, which means I am another yourself. It also means I'm you, you are me. And if I do harm to you, I'm doing harm to me. And if I love and respect you, I'm loving and respecting myself, by Luis Valdez, a playwright, a poet. And when I saw that, I said, that's what schools are about. That's what expanded learning is about. And whatever I'm doing for that kid actually is coming back to me. And whatever I'm not doing of disrespect, that's coming back to me. So when I watched this school, it was more than just a motto, it was an action. And that's kind of how we work with our programs, our staff. How do you build that sense of love and connection between kids? And one of the ways that we've learned to do it over the years, and I'm going to take it to this next slide. It's kind of a one that captures me. We came across this young girl's picture. I don't know where she's from, but her face, her countenance, her presence with the saying, the twinkle in her eye, the smile on her face that says, I know you're here, I can see you. And so one of the ways we're looking, even in a virtual world, how do we really see and connect with our kids, with one another? And it's harder than ever right now. But kids want to be seen, they want to be known. And a lot of times they're going to be pulled back, they want to be hidden, they want to be quiet. But if we make a point to notice them and bring them out, that's a special thing for that kid, and their life starts to open up. So we've developed this term called growth heart set. And if you flip over, Armando, to the next screen, just the top line there. And what we started to look at is we need to plant a soil. We need to have seeds of activities, but unless that soil of caring community is there, that kid's not going to learn. So how do we go about that? And one of the first things we've learned with that is that we need to really develop a sense of connection between our kids and what we call heart sets. So we're going to show you, and we're going to just kind of move right through what the growth heart sets are. What type of qualities do you need? So Armando, just leave it at that one for now. And folks, if you can go into the chat room for a moment. And if you had a culture that, or a community, or your after school expanded learning that had an open, kind heart, what other qualities beside acceptance? And everybody, if you would just, if you can, go to your chat room. Would love you to chat in. What words would be in a kind, what would be the quality of that heart set community? And just go ahead, chat in a word or two, and we'll kind of call them out as we go. So what I'm seeing in here, inclusive, from Allegra, understanding, Victoria, thank you. Eddie, warm and loving, caring, wonderful, from Helen. What other qualities would you like to see that carries behind the heart set? Empathetic, mindful, says Ida. Great. So we're going to share with you as you chat in some of the ones that you've said, some of the ones that we say we can build this in. And Armando, if you just kind of click us through some of the qualities that we can build into our programs. Forgiving, caring, some of you mentioned that, connecting, excellent, open, giving. There's so many, trusting one another, trusting yourself, considerate, and I think there's one more on that, and loving. And there's so many more, and you've put many of them into the chat room, I see. Alexa, patience, wonderful. And in this time, feels like a family, excellent. Humbleness. So consider that these can be taught to ourselves, our staff, but it really needs to start with us. So we're going to share it with you, and I'm going to flip over to my paper slides here. Yeah, here's some of the skill sets that we're going to share with you, and we're going to give you activities. In fact, you're going to get a whole list of activities that you'll be able to take with you. And we realize that this can be very intentional. And over the years, we came up with these 8 heart set skills. And we're going to just walk through them just by name now, and then we're going to practice the first 2 while we're together today. Seeing the best in people, skill number 1. Can we look past behaviors that may be annoying to us? Can we see there's really maybe a wonderful person in here dealing with a lot of stuff in life? So can we look past the behavior into the best of someone? Can we praise them in meaningful ways? Number 3, can we listen not just from the mind that wants to advise or change somebody, but from a deep place of empathy and just taking people where they are, whatever's going on? Can we realize that we and our kids have choices and we're not victimized by circumstances that can feel that way, but there's a power within us that can really choose in the worst of times and the best of times? How do we learn how to resolve conflicts? And a lot of that has to do not just with conflicts with others, but conflicts within ourselves, because if we're not doing well by us, we're not going to do well by our kids. How do we move from a judging place, a critical place, to more acceptance and forgiveness? And how do we change what looks like challenges and I'm going to just fall down to something way I can pick myself up? The theme we're hearing a lot these days is rising up. In the hardest of times, how do we rise up? And then how do we give? Not out of necessity or I need to give, but I want to give because I have a richness of my heart that's kind and who loves to help people. And then how do I get support from others? Because otherwise I can get depleted. So these are kind of our basic skills that we work with staff, we work with kids in different sorts of ways. And we want to take you through an activity with a few of them right now. And so, Armando, if you can take us to the next screen, and I'm going to ask somebody if you could unmute yourself, and rather than me read through this, I'd love one of us to read through this story, the Movember Tribe. It has to do with the skill set number 1 of honoring and seeing the best of people. So I'm going to see if someone has raised your hand. If you want to raise your hand in the chat room or just open your mic and speak out, would love to have one of us read this out. So who's game? Just go for it. Don't be shy.
I'll do it.
Go right for it. Just tell us your name, where you're from, and read us up if you would.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eddie Robledo. I'm from San Diego, and I'm part of Primetime.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you. In the Movember tribe in South Africa, when a person acts irresponsibly or unjustly, he is placed in the center of the village, alone and unfettered. All work ceases, and every man, woman, and child in the village gathers in a large circle around the accused individual. Then each person in the tribe speaks to the accused, one at a time, about all the good things the person in the center of the circle has done in his lifetime. Every incident, every experience that can be recalled with any detail and accuracy is recounted. All the positive attributes, good deeds, strength, and kindnesses are recited carefully and at length.
Excellent. And you want to take us to the last paragraph, Ida?
Sure. The tribal ceremony often lasts several days. At the end, the tribal circle is broken. A joyous celebration takes place, and the person is symbolically and literally welcomed back into the tribe.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you for reading that. And Amanda, if you can take us back to the gallery view of all of us and off of that image, that would be great. And so here's that story of the Movember Tribe. Is it that way with most societies? What usually happens when people are, quote, acting wrong or bad? What usually happens in our society? And just put it in your chat if you would. When people are acting out of order, what usually shows up? And just chat it up. Punishment from Jane, thank you. What else shows up in our society when people are not in the best of behaviors? Judging them, thank you. Fear, Teresa, excellent. Hate, shame, all those things. And here this is a pretty abnormal, radical approach. And I had a 5th grade teacher, heard that story. She went back to her class with the same kids, same ones. Oh, that one's always kind of messing up. Put one of her students into the center, and the rest of the class spoke of the best of that kid. Because that kid was looking for some type of attention any way he can get it. Let's look past the behavior. And one of the ways we have to look at that is, how do we look inside of ourselves at the best of ourselves? Because we've been taught typically in our society that it's conceited, it's egotistical, you can't speak well of yourself, you've got to be humble in a way that really is demeaning perhaps, not in true humility. So one of the ways we look at how do we raise our kids up and looking at the best of ourselves is we have to look at the best of ourselves. I used to teach 7th grade, and I would come home from my 130 kids that day, and I go, oh, look how I messed up. Look how and I would think of those 4 or 5 kids and forget the 120 kids that I was actually pretty great with. So we're going to turn the tides. We're going to do an activity, and we're going to be in a breakout room in just a moment, you and 2 others. And Amanda and I are going to kind of walk it through with you first. It's called the Good News. And Amanda, if you can toss us back up on the screen there. Good News activity is going to go like this, and we'll go to the next slide. It's about honoring yourself. You're going to introduce yourself. You'll be in breakouts of 3. And if you can get on screen, better. And if not, for some reason, you can still do it with your voice. And you'll select, and you won't be able to see who's longest or shortest here if you're not on screen, but choose who's going to be A, B, and C. First, introduce yourself by name, where you're from, and your favorite ice cream. So I'm Stu from Los Angeles area. Ice cream is vanilla fudge. I'll be going last because I got the shortest here, obviously. So someone else, A and B, will be before me. Then you get a minute. Partner A will go first. The good news about yourself. And the others just listen. So if you want to throw me back on screen, Amanda, that would be good. So here's my 1 minute, and if you can time me someone. Good news about me, and I haven't, it always comes to what shows up. So good news about me is, and I'm going to open my screen here. There I am. Good news about me is that I'm caring, I'm devoted, I do my best. I put myself right in all the way as much as I can. I'm a learner. I love to see what others are doing and how I could take the best from other people. I'm also one, the good news about me is I like to put other people front and center as best as I can. Give them opportunities. Good news about me is I can let go of things. Not always, but many a time I can let go of things. Amanda, you're timing me, right? And good news about me, I got a good sense of humor. I like to play. Good news about me is I'm a good family person, good husband, good dad, good son. Good news about me is, okay, I'm intelligent, I'm bright. Is this a minute, Armando?
Time.
Time, all right. So as you can see, you got to look at my process. It's like, it can seem like forever, but just keep going and do your best. It's not what you like. I could say I like baseball, I like soccer, but it's what's good within you, of your strengths, of your assets. It's a little bit more revealing. And then after partner 1 goes, or partner A, the other 2 in the group, give them a little silent applause, school to death, or some claps, clip, anything in there. then move right over to the second partner B, right over to the partner C, and then you'll have a chance to just talk about it. You'll have a minute each, so it'll be a minute, and if we flip back to the instruction sheet, which you'll see in the chat room, so you can keep your chat open while you're in there. And Aman, if you kind of flip us back over to that slide with the instructions, just a recap, what you're going to be doing. It'll be, once you're in your group, introduce yourself, name where you're from, favorite ice cream, select who's A, B, and C, just start right in, and there'll be a little banner across, say, hey, partner A, 1 minute, good news. Then banner will say partner B, and then a banner for partner C, a minute each, and then for a minute just to discuss how that is. You might put a timekeeper in there just in case the banner doesn't show up. So the whole thing will take 5 minutes. So once you see the breakout, accept it. If you can, turn on your screen. It'd be nice to see who you're with.
Yeah, in terms of the breakouts, just make sure to try to turn on your screen in terms of honoring each other and respect. I think people don't like to talk to a black screen, so if you guys can do that, that would be great. And then again, I will go ahead and send out the 1 minute announcements for you. And then
any questions, Amanda? Let's just check in. Anybody have a question? Just open your mic before we go into breakout on the good news. Anybody? Have fun with it. We'll see you back in about 5 or 6 minutes.
Give me a quick second. I'm going to go ahead and just place the instructions in the chat just so you have it in there when you're in the breakout room. And then I'm going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms. Make sure you accept your invite and have fun.
So we're making our way back. Here we are.
We're back.
We're back in.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that? How was that for different ones of us? What I'd like you to do is to open up the chat. Just had a word or two of how that was for you. Just toss it into the chat. We're still kind of looking at words that were there from previous. So someone says, difficult to praise myself. Understood. I know. How many of you found that sometimes uncomfortable? Like, ugh, that's not like me. Maybe I'm being conceited. Harder than expected. Good to meet somebody new. I'd love to hear from one or two. Just unmute yourself. What was that like? So some of you are chatting it. Go right ahead. Someone says, nice to see and hear some other people. Good to meet new people. Would someone like to share what that was like, to share about the good news about yourself? Just unmute yourself, if you would. And just speak on up. Tell us who you are. Anybody care to share what that was like? Someone said fun from Lucy. Well, one of the things I want to comment on that is that could be one of the more challenging things, because our kind of history is, let's not put ourselves in a way that we might look above somebody by looking at our best. But what if people recognize the good in themselves and one another? And it's not just conceited or superior, but there's good if we can see it. If we can't see it in others, then maybe we're having a hard time recognizing it in ourselves. So one of the skills, and we're going to give you some activities on this, is how do kids learn how to become a positive self-talker, catching themselves at their best. Recognize where they need improvement, but not letting that ride over everything, and us as well. And so with that, what we want to do is to give you a chance to look at the best in ourselves, but then the best in one another. So in a moment, we're going to take you back in. How many, just by a show of hands, and you can do it physically, you can do it in the chat, how many of you find it easier to praise other people than it is to praise yourself? Is that ever the case? Like, I can see the best in other people. In fact, I would often say I could see kids in their future, and I'd have so much hope for them, and they don't see it. Why could I see it, but they can't see it for themselves? And I had to go, well, maybe I'm not looking in myself in the mirror going, I got to look at the positive in me and hope that they would also look at the positive in them. So it kind of goes hand in hand, and we're going to give you a chance to look at the best in one another. And in just a moment, and if you have something to write on nearby, that would be great. We'd like you to consider that there's strengths in others that often reflect the strengths that we have in ourselves that we sometimes fail to see. So here's how it's going to work. Back in that same breakout as before, we're going to ask you to take a moment, and if you have a sheet of paper nearby, that would be excellent, or even something just to write on, is to write down, and you don't tell them yet, some of the strengths that you saw in your partner. your two partners. So if I was in there with my partners, I might write down partner A, what I saw with her was, and I write down a few things. Partner B, what her strength or his strengths were, I'd write down a few things. And then in a moment, after you get a chance to write, we'll then say, partner A, go ahead, and B, and for a minute, both of you together, tell partner C what you saw in them. And partner C, just get to listen. Just listen to people telling you the best of what they see. Well, I don't know who they are. How can they see this in me? You know, it's easy if you trust yourself. It doesn't take long to notice good in people. And partner A and B will tell you what they see in you. Then the next minute, partner B, you'll be receiving it, and A and C's will tell you what they see in you of the best. The third minute, partner A, you get to receive what your two partners see in you. That's your strength, that's your best. And then you'll have a minute just to, how was that? It was easy, it was hard, was it uncomfortable? What did you learn? So have something handy, if you would, that you could write on. When you're back in the same group as before, the first 2 minutes, just look at your two partners and write down what you see of the strengths in one and what you see in the strengths. It could be the same strengths. And we have some examples of strengths. I think it's on the next slide. So you might see that they're friendly, they're honest. We just wrote down some words that people might notice in one another. Peaceful, hardworking, helpful, loving, intelligent, funny, generous, kind. You might say, how do I don't even know them. Trust yourself. Just by looking at people and listening for a few minutes, you might see the good in them. So just kind of give yourself the benefit that you'll see what you see. And we'll have the instructions back up. So in a moment, we're going to ask you to dive back in. Once you're in there, have something to write on, jot down some strengths you see in each of your two partners, and then we'll say, go ahead, and two of your partners will talk to one, the next two will talk to another, and so forth. So again, about 5 or 6 minutes, we'll have those little prompts as you're in your breakouts. So take some time, praise one another, have some fun back in your breakouts. Go right ahead and begin.
You are going to be going back to your same breakout rooms, so just go ahead and accept your invite. I know there's a few of you guys that didn't find anybody in your breakouts earlier, but I was able to move you so that happens again. Hopefully it doesn't, because you guys are already connected with that group. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms now. Go ahead and accept it.
We're coming back in, and there's a few more coming back. Welcome. So how was that, hearing the good news, the strengths that people see in you? How many of you got some benefit out of doing that? Just by a thumbs up or a wave? Okay. Did anybody find it harder to speak of your good news, and it was easier to hear other people speak of you and your strengths? And just kind of take note of that. We'd love to hear a few people what that experience was like of hearing the strengths that people see in you. So please just unmute yourself, and we'll take a few minutes for some people's thoughts about what that strength sharing was about. So whoever would like to go first, open your mic and tell us what that was like.
I'll speak up. My name is Alicia. Everybody calls me AJ. I'm up here in Northern California, Pittsburgh, California area. Well, when we got back into the room the second time, it felt kind of, if I had known the first time to take notes when we talked the first time, then I would have listened a little more carefully. I thought we were just going into groups the first time around to get to know each other, introduce ourselves. So when we came back in the group the second time, we were trying to write notes on what we talked about the first time, and it kind of eluded me of what was said. So it was kind of difficult. So we had to rehash kind of what we talked about the first time around, but and then the other person in our group couldn't speak, so he was typing, but we got his information. So
Alicia, let me ask you something, if you don't mind. What was some of the strengths that people saw in you?
Both of them are people persons.
Yeah.
They like working with the people. One, Alicia, she is friendly. She loves pets. She works with Boost. So she doesn't work with any kids. Me, myself, I work with the school district. I'm at Pittsburgh High School and at Hillview After School Program. So I'm in there with the kids. Chris is, he is a family man. He's also in the education. He works with 5th and 6th graders. So I mean, we found out what they do. It was challenging.
All right.
It's
I'll
challenging
imagine.
because you don't really know what questions to ask,
Yeah.
or I know Alicia likes peanut butter ice cream.
Well, maybe what we're talking about here is the challenge, and I think you're not alone, of looking at ourselves and having other people see the best in ourselves, because it could be, oops. But we're going to suggest that during hard times like we're going through now, taking the time to self-care, taking the time to self-praise and to look for the best inside of the toughest of times with people that might be disturbing us, it might be beneficial. So I just want to thank you for speaking up, Alicia, and for everybody just to kind of dive into this praising and self-honoring. And I want to, if you would, just everybody just give yourselves your own little applause for that kind of exchange you had inside of your group. And we're going to take it into how, Armando, I think we have a screen that will show one of the activities we're going to send you off with. In fact, there's a whole bunch of activities. Armando, we're going to be able to pass on a link with many of these. But this is one we do with our kids and our parents. We sometimes have the kids take this home and they work with their parents, much like you did, but it's a little bit easier with a visual and a piece of paper, where they sit down with someone on the outer circle. Hey, Mom, would you write down all the good things you see in me? You're helpful, you're kind, you're considerate. And then tell me why you wrote that. And the mom or the dad, whoever the family members, will sit down and tell, well, here's what I see in you and here's why. And then the child will take the page back and they'll fill in what they see about themselves in the center. So it isn't just looking for praise outside, but noticing it for yourself as well. So this is a great, and we've had kids come back and go, my mom never said anything nice like this before to me, and she's starting to see the good in me, and I'm starting to see the good in her. So catching the people at their best, it's a habit that we can build, and we catch ourselves, we can catch each other. So this is called the strength circle, much like the strength list that we just did. And we have about 5 or 6 other activities that we're going to send you as a link. In fact, that link will be in the chat. Is that how we're going to do it, Armando?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and post it in the chat shortly.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in there. You could just click on it and download it. It'll download directly to your computers once you click on that link.
Yeah. And just to tell you a little bit what you'll see, be a friend to yourself is an activity about how kids start to write down things that they like to do for other people to make them feel good. Hey, guess what? I'm going to treat myself that same way. Maybe I'll go out for, meet up with a friend virtually. Maybe what I'll do is I'll, buy myself a special gift. Self-talk, pretty much what we're saying. It's been said that typically people 8 to 1 will negative self-talk themselves throughout the day. 50,000 thoughts a day. So this is an activity where kids start to notice how they can befriend themselves. And it can be done one-on-one, as just them writing and reflecting, journaling is part of it, or they can do it in a conversation with other kids. A letter to yourself, you'll see, is the kind letter of encouragement. Super booster is much like we just did, is people giving you their praise. And heart to heart has a lot to do with how to talk to one another. And part of our heart set skills is how to listen in kind ways to one another. So we're going to send you these activities. It's out of our curricular guide, Making the Best of Me. And there, you can make copies of it, use it in any sort of way you'd like.
I've already posted it twice on the chat. So you can just click on it and then it should download directly to your computer.
Great. So that's kind of our gift to you to kind of take and use as you would see fit. And we're going to soon close out, but what I wanted to enter into just for a few minutes is tips for self-care. This, as we all know, this is rough times for many reasons. Not just the COVID, not just all that we're dealing with in terms of social injustice, but just everything's getting layered one on top of another. So one thing we're doing with our staff, and we're doing our best with our kids, is just to do a quick review of ways to self-care inside of this heart set, building kindness inside of ourselves, inside of our communities. So quick tips. Many of these you've seen before, but we just want to share them with you. One is physical well-being. That includes things such as getting good sleep. And I know at times it may be hard, but how do you adjust your schedule so you can do that? How do you pull back from social media at times so you can just get to bed? And you can kind of click through these if you would, Armando. Nutrition, hydration, water, good food, exercise, moving, dancing, and so forth. So on the physical level, how do you take good care? And then on the emotional level, we have some tips as well. First one being stay connected. Stay connected to your friends, your family members, people who can support you. Stay connected to yourself. If it's time for meditation or mindfulness or taking a walk outside, just do what you need. Acts of kindness for yourself and other people. We've been seeing that earlier from the Club of Boys with all the ways they're giving out to their seniors. That just recharges ourselves. So kindness is a tip for yourself. And then joy triggers. This is something that one of our staff gave to us, is just stop for a moment and do a joy trigger. Hey, get up and dance. Get up and, tell a joke to a friend, or, just do something that brings you fun. And sometimes when we're doing our workshops in the middle, we just stop, put on some music, and we just start dancing. It's a way to bring in a joy trigger. And then past that, on the mental well-being, things such as, and just click them through if you would, being grateful. Some people use a gratitude journal, or just at the end of the day, just think about, what am I grateful? I got some food in my home. I got people around me. My family's in good health. Simple things, mindfulness or meditation, breathing, pausing. And then I think the last one is how to build the growth mindset along with a heart set, have a positive mindset. So those are some tips we wanted to share with you on that. And in closing, what I'm going to ask that you do is open up into your chat room and open the everyone. And I'd like you just to take a moment, and if there's one word of your positive strength that either someone told you or that you recognize for yourself in the good news, write down a word or two of what you claim to be one of your positive strengths, one of the good qualities about you, and just jot it right in there, right in there. What's a word for you that you can take away as your positive strength from today? So here we go. Just chat them in there. Compassionate. Thank you, Teresa, Phil, creative, Victoria, Ida, and empathetic, and Edie, energetic, genuinely kind, Allegra. Excellent. Just jot them in there. Confident. Thank you. Mentor, Alicia Jordan. Wonderful. Teresa, confident. Lucy, caring. Don't be shy. We're not always going to be perfect. It's not every day, every moment, but take these with you as your strength. Honest from Chris, and kind from Griselda. Leadership, Tamika. Great listener from Jane. Freddie, friendly. I know that about you, Freddie. Others. So what I'm going to ask you to do in just a minute or two we have now is, if you're comfortable with it, just close your eyes. And if you want to mute your video so you can do it privately, or you just want to just take a moment to reflect on what we've done. You might just take a nice deep breath in. Capture the good news about you. It doesn't mean you're better than anyone or they're worse. It just means we all carry good news. And as part of what we bring to ourselves, we bring to other people. And just imagine that your good news, your strengths, are a gift, and actually lifts and elevates other people's spirits by you standing in the strength of your good news. So just know that you carry that where you go, that other people are better because of you. And we just welcome and wish you well over the weeks ahead. Take great care, and we're going to sign off. Mondo, any closing words you'd like to share with the group?
Just quick on the organizational EduCare. We serve over 30,000 plus students annually, mainly in middle school and high school. We provide professional development for a little bit over 2,000 teachers and staff annually, and serve about 1,500 parents annually as well. And every Thursday, just a quick, we do offer free trainings on our social emotional skill set of Heartset. So these are all free every Thursday at 1 p.m. So if you guys wanted more details, I could send it over to Alicia so she could forward it to you guys as well. But again, we are celebrating our 30th year coming up shortly. So again, this is the work that we love doing on a daily basis. And we embed all the skill sets that you currently see into all our after school expanded learning programs, our SEL programs, and all our support with the individual schools that we work with. So again, thank you for being part of today.
Yeah, thank you, Armando, for working with me. And Tia, thanks so much. Alicia, thanks. Everyone, just enjoy being with you. So as part of our leave in absence, everybody open your screen if you can. Give a wave out on this Heart Set Pod. Take a look at the faces you've been with or the voices you've heard. I see some of the people in my breakout room. So, okay, I'm going to pass it back over to you, Alicia and Tia. Thanks for having us.